You've probably been told many times that the secrets to success are effort and hard work. Do more, take more on, say yes to more things, work harder, work longer hours. And in fact, we're brought up on the idea that you'll only get out of life what you're prepared to put in. And to a degree, that's true. You will not be successful unless you work hard. But there comes a point where you are working so hard, putting so much in, and you're burning out and having less impact. That's what my guest today, Giorgos Ampavis, calls the effort ceiling, the point at which working hard isn't working. So if effort and hard work are not the secrets to success, what's the missing magic ingredient? Giorgos went from software engineer to chief technology and product officer in just 8 years. That's a meteoric rise by any measure. But along the way, he realized that his progress was not just down to how hard he worked. There was something else at play, and it wasn't luck either. So to help him understand what was happening, but also to help other people be more successful, he started to write it down. And the result is what he calls the Multiplier Map. And you can download it from our website today and follow along as Giorgos and I talk. So if you are looking to have more impact at work, whether that's to achieve some level of personal satisfaction or to achieve some sort of a reward at work, and you want to do that without burning out, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Giorgos, thank you so much for joining me today here on the show. Now, today we're all going to talk about the moment that you realized that hard work alone was not enough to progress your career, which is weird because we're all brought up to work hard and you only get out what you put in. And you realized that it wasn't working for you. So this all comes from your personal experience. Can you just touch on what that moment felt like? When did you realize that hard work alone was not enough to get you through?
Yeah. Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for having me. First of all, a pleasure and honor to be here. To the question now, multiple times. So in my career, and even I have more than 20 years of experience in software engineering, like in technology. But even before, I always felt like there was always a time where you're working really hard, but you don't see the fruits of your work like coming to life. So you feel like you've hit the ceiling, and then you end up like disappointed, unhappy, and burned out, and all these things. So I wouldn't say it's like once, but I have it like it can be like it can happen again in the future. It's not like I've cracked the success factor here. And for me, this is indeed, this is something that comes from my experience. There are times in the past that I was working really, really hard, like even when I was studying in university, and it wasn't necessarily the effort wasn't necessarily providing the outcome that I wanted as well. So it makes you think like, what can you do differently? What I'm not doing that I should be doing, and this is the combined experience that I have over the I don't know, I'm not gonna say my age, but over the last few decades, and yeah.
Cool. And it's worth pausing on your story, isn't it? Because you went from, if I say just a software engineer, I don't mean to belittle that, but you went from the level of being a software engineer to being a VP and a CTPO of a challenger bank within 8 years, which is quite a meteoric rise. What is that? Is Is it luck? Is it hard work? Is it something else? How did you manage to do what a lot of people would love to be able to do?
Yeah. Actually, it's not just happened in this is my probably third career. Um,
Okay.
it happened before in the past. So if you look at my whole trajectory in different years, I mean, I think I'm disclosing my age now. So, um, but if you look at on my past, I had these spikes in my careers, like different careers. Like whatever I was doing, I was actually for some reason I was elevating quite fast. You talk about luck. I don't believe in luck. I don't think like luck is something that humans created to attribute like certain things, good things or bad things happening to them because we have to attribute it to something. I believe in randomness. Like I really believe things are random. Random things happen to us and coincidence as well. Like sometimes there's a coincidence being at the right place at the right time. Do you want to call it luck? Sure, but
But but you still need to take advantage of that, don't you? You're right. There'll be a certain set of circumstances or some things that will happen, and you've got to be aware of that, and you've got to be able to take advantage of it so that you
yeah.
do get that lift that you've clearly had.
So 100%. I think there are some people who are they are driven like bugs into the light into certain things that happen to them, and the more you look out, the more the more you explore, the more you're gonna figure out. If you stay within your comfort zone, we can talk about comfort zones, the other thing that I love, but if you stay within your comfort zone, things are gonna be pretty like contained, right? So bad things won't happen, good things won't happen as well. So but I wouldn't say like awareness is good, but I wouldn't say like can predict what's gonna happen. But I think some people are, they have this intuition that something will happen. I can't explain it. I'm not religious or even how do you call it spiritual. I don't have any like, so I can't explain. I don't want to explain it. But for me, yes, it's being at the right place at the right time, but also being aware that what happens around you, the surroundings, can help you like move faster and climb the ladder as we call it.
Yeah.
Um,
So the whole purpose of this Build Your Edge podcast, and particularly this show, is that people can listen to someone like you who's been there and done it, and you've clearly had success, as you've mentioned multiple times, quite strong success. And then they can take away from that your learnings and apply it to themselves. So before we get into any of the detail, who do you think should listen to this show? Who are you talking to today?
So if I was reflecting on myself, because this is coming from within, right? I would probably say like people, ambitious people, um, high achievers probably that they want to achieve a lot. People with imposter syndrome as well, because these are the people probably high achievers and imposter syndrome. The correlate, there's a correlation. I would say people who want to do more things. I wouldn't say impatient because I don't like impatience. I like being patient, and that's what I teach my son as well. But I would say people who want to move but they want to do it in a methodical and with intent. And again, you talked about me being successful. I don't see myself, for example, as super successful. I see myself as another, average person. I had some successes, but there's a lot of pain and failures that went before the successes, right? Um, so it's you shouldn't listen to me. You should listen to what I'm saying and filter it out, right? If you are somebody who's stuck, who really loves working and working hard, but you don't see like you feel like there's something is blocking you, maybe you can get some help from what I'm saying. Because I've been there. This is what I was. I was,
Yeah.
somebody who was blocked multiple times, and I had to unblock myself, or by myself, or with the help of others. Because I also have mentors who help me, and also like a list in the document, books. And this is by the way, not the only books. Like I read a lot, so this is not the only books.
Yeah.
So I get
Yeah.
like a lot of influence from outside.
Yeah.
Um,
Which we all do, I think. I mean, you have to, no man's an island
yeah.
and whatever.
And by the way, this is not for software engineers or developers or anything. This is for everyone because, like I said, these apply everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not just for technology. It applies everywhere. It applied when I was, working at in my previous career. I'm not going to say what, like, which was completely different. it applies now to my when I'm a technology leader as well.
Yeah. We often say that on this show, actually, although naturally our audience tends to be engineering and product focused because that's our circle, really nothing that we talk about is engineering. We haven't mentioned databases or AI
No, no,
at
no.
all. It's
I
about
don't think I do as
progression.
well. The only
Yeah.
technical term that I think that I mentioned is system, which is not technical term, but it's
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So through your document and in our conversations, you talk about this concept of the effort ceiling.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
Um, so the way I have it in my head, and probably there's going to be different interpretation elsewhere online, is there's a book actually which is called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." I think that's the title. I think it's mentioned that the author is mentioned in the document. It's basically the effort that you put, you can't break the ceiling anymore. Like whatever worked in the past won't necessarily work for you in the future. So you still put the effort though, right? So you still sweat,
Yeah,
but
there is no. I mean, I think it's clear to say there is no. There's no substitute for hard work, really, is there? You must work hard.
you have to. Yes, I mean
Yes.
when people say work smarter, not harder, they don't mean that you should relax and don't work, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, but you need to have leverage. Like you need to how to multiply your effort, basically. So when you when you start your career, probably your hard work is like you put like 1 hour, probably gonna get I don't know 100 impact, like 0 to 100.
Hmm.
Gonna be a lot of impact because you're student, you're studying a lot, with a lot. That's a lot of effort. If you are late in your career, like I don't think like there may be a case where you're working like 80 hours weeks, but still the impact is not there because your company is not growing or your team is not performing. And you need to look at what's the bottleneck, what's the reason, what are the reasons behind it. I think that's my rationale. That's the effort ceiling. Like when
Yeah.
where your effort is not translated to the impact that you're expecting, and it could be
And
good.
I know that, and I know we'll cover this off later on, but also it's counterproductive. You know, if you are, and I've been there myself, you work very, very long weeks because you think that's what you have to do. But if you took a step back, you'd realize you're being inefficient and you're not thinking properly and you're ratty. And so it actually, there is not a correlation with the amount of hours and the amount of effort you put in with the return.
Yeah, and I'll give an example. I think many people probably have been there. There's performance reviews. It's a good example.
Oh,
Like
yes.
right, so you work like let's say biannual performance reviews. You work um you know you work really really hard for 6 months. You think you work really hard for 6 months. You've done like you solved I don't know how many problems for the business. Performance review comes and then you are meets all expectations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
disappointed. So this is shows that obviously this can be for many reasons, but probably the one thing that I've seen is like probably working on the wrong thing. So not everything has the impact you're expecting, irrelevant to the hours that you worked on it. So what do you
Yeah.
do? Do you go the next quarter doing exactly the same thing? Probably not. You need to change something. This is by the way, this is not about promotions, right? This is not about promotions. Nothing to do with
Yes.
getting to the next.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to get onto your levels
Yeah.
soon, which I think is a great way of identifying where you are on this ladder, if you like. We'll get into that. So if hard work and luck are not the kind of the secrets, yeah, I think a lot of people do rely on luck. And a lot of people do believe that just hard work is the thing. And if we're saying that neither of those is particularly the magic source, what is it?
I think it's a combination. Is a mixture of how do you manage? It's how do you use your time? Time is limited, right? Time is the only thing that is finite. Like we don't have enough. I did mention to somebody yesterday in a team meeting that I wish I had like 30 hours, and they said,
Hmm.
but probably even if you had 30 hours, you're probably going to be complaining, and that's true. Like time is finite. Like we're never going to be enough. So how do you use your time is really important, and what do you do with it? Again, do you work like 8 hours or do you pretend to work 8 hours and you're working like on different things and then you don't have any? That's one thing. The other one is leverage. Like whatever you do, you needs to be it needs to have a multiplier if you want to accelerate, right? That's physics basically.
Can,
So
can
you
you can
need,
you talk more about that? What do you mean? So are you saying that if I'm going to do something for the next hour, I must choose carefully what that is, or what do you mean by a multiplier or a lever?
so you have let's say you have three tasks, right? And for each task you need to understand the impact or the value that you're producing, right? How would you choose? Like usually you would choose like procrastinators like myself. They choose the easy one because
Hmm.
we'll do the easy ones and then we leave the hard ones for the end. But the easy one might not be have the impact, it's not part of the, it's not urgent or important if you want to use the Eisenhower matrix. It's not like it doesn't have like the outcome you expect. It has different outcome, but still useful, but no, not that useful. Um, so it's all how do you prioritize. So if you had to do one task, what would you choose? So if you want to be, if you were talking about multipliers or leverage, then you need to use the one irrelevant to how hard it is or how easy it is, the one that actually has higher impact. And impact is different, like impact for your boss, impact for your clients, for your customers, your users. I don't know. It's different. So for me, it's always about prioritizing the right thing at the right time because you cannot do everything. And people
Yeah,
like, again, high achievers, like ambitious people, probably they have like huge backlog, a lot of things that they need to do or they want to do. Like I have like, I don't know how many things I have in my Notion page, personal page, like that I want to do on a daily basis. I can't do all of them. Right. And I want to write 3 blog posts. I can't write 3 blog posts at the same time. Important.
yeah. Let me dive into that a bit more because I'm also a to do list writer, and once I get a system where I've got a system of writing down what I want to do, the list becomes very big and eventually becomes overwhelming. I look at the list and think, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And no matter how many times come up with a prioritization system, I still don't go for the hard one, the one that I know is going to have the most impact. And eventually I go, just delete all of the list and start again. What's the secret to that, to understanding your priorities and everything you must do?
I think it's a combination of it's two things actually. It's the one things that you have to do, right? There's some things that I have to do. So if it's something that I need to deliver for a client or for my work, I have to do it, right? So it's not like I can't delay it. So and then the other things that I'd love to do, they can have high impact again or low impact, or it's just pleasure, right? But I'll give you an example. Like I have to do like 2 3 things today for a client, right? At the same time, I want to write the blog post, but I also want
Hmm.
to do something like with AI. Like I want to a bit like spend a couple of hours vibe code a little bit, like not vibe code, AI assisted coding. I want to build something small because I like building. I like this is my getaway. Um, I can't do all of them, right? So I'll have to prioritize. Probably I will do the clients, and even from them, I will probably do the one that I think has more value for them. But then I'll choose something for the other list to keep the balance. And the other thing probably is going to be something like, I don't know, maybe I can start writing a blog post. So, whatever I think I have, also like, because it's pleasure as well. Like you can't just be doing like only unpleasant things. You have to satisfy the other part of ourselves where, we need to keep motivated. And motivation comes as well from doing things that make me happy. But
Yeah,
I haven't cracked prioritization. Prioritization is really hard. But I try to follow what I talk to the teams as well, because like a delivery team, software engineering team, um, keep your whip small. So you don't try to. It's better to do less is more, basically. So try to focus. I start my day by I'm using like a productivity planner. I'm starting my day by listing just the 3 things that I want to do today, no more than 3. If I do 4, it's 5. If I do 2, unfortunate but still okay.
yeah. And there is I mean, I speak for myself here, but there is a tendency to look at what you're going to do, and as you've just described, I'll lean into the easy, fun stuff because I know I'll enjoy it. When I really know that there's a hard thing, and I don't mean hard necessarily in terms of effort, but uncomfortable or difficult or boring or something. It's a hard thing, and I kind of go, I'll do the easy thing instead of the hard thing.
It does, and preparing yourself actually helps a lot. So what I do is I start my day by, again, every day. Sometimes I do it in the night. At night, I prepare from night, but I start every day in the morning, like 15 minutes, like just thinking about what I'm gonna do today. Just watching
Yeah.
some news and then just thinking about what I'm gonna do the next day. Like I literally have the list in front of me now. And like this morning, I sat down. I said, well, obviously the podcast was one of them. We need to record it. It was high on my list, right? I need to prepare for that. And then I have a couple of other things, but no more than three. That's the three things
Yeah.
that I have. I mean, with a relative size, like there's another 100 like tiny things which I don't want to put on the list anyway.
Like breathe and have a cup of tea.
Really
Yeah.
big.
And I find I sleep better. I do the same. You know, I look at my list, and if I just even look at it the night before, my brain just goes, "Yep, it's okay. You've got this. You know what you're doing." And then tomorrow, I sleep better, and I'm an early riser. I'm usually up at stupid o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. But immediately, I know what I'm doing today and what I must get into, and it just feels better.
Yeah. I mean, for me as well, like it relaxes me a little bit at night. Also, if you have a big thing that's happening, and if you think about it, like just before you go to bed, supposedly your brain thinks and solves the problem, and while you sleep. I don't know if it's
I've
true.
experienced that several times. You're absolutely right. You know, they say get up from your desk and walk away. For example, if you're coding something and you can't work it out, go for a walk.
Oh
And it's
yeah,
amazing how many times, yeah, it just goes,
gym.
boom, that's it.
Me, it's the gym basically. I go to the gym. If I'm stuck with something, I go to the gym, and then
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about saying no. So
yeah.
again, we're going to get into more detail on your framework, but um, clearly you can't do everything that's asked of you. And particularly as you become more senior in an organization, more is given to you and more is expected of you. And your boss, your seniors around you will ask you to do more. We know the right thing sometimes is to say no. But how do you do that without pissing your boss off? Because your boss might think that the thing they're saying to you, look, your priority for the next 3 days is to get this thing done. But you know, based on everything you've got going on around you, that actually I can't do that, or I don't have everything in place, or actually there's these things which are much more important. How do you say no, particularly to somebody who's senior to you, without pissing them off?
So I'm notorious of saying no.
Okay.
Even when I was not just to higher up, but also like in any direction. Even as engineer, like I wasn't like I will never pull something into my sprint. Just to speak in a bit delivery terms, if I didn't feel comfortable, I would just say no. But there is a technique. There are things that you need to, obviously with your boss, you need to be very, very careful. Like you don't want to piss them off.
Hmm.
But I am data driven. I like, you know, I use data to talk. I can't do everything, right? So I'll have to prioritize. So, and that's how you need to communicate. Saying no is not that you don't want to do it. It's maybe I can't do it now, right? The
Hmm.
other
Hmm.
thing, like when you're speaking with another business stakeholder, not necessarily your boss, and there's a conflict there's unplanned work that needs to come. You don't need to say no, right? You don't need to say no, no, we won't do it. You can always say like, let's figure out when we can do it. So you can change the conversation, like turn the conversation around instead of actually them invading your space. You take them out of your space and then you put the ball into a different field, like a neutral field, more negotiable, like open for negotiation. Let's see how we can do it. Instead of actually saying no, I wouldn't say when people will say people no, it's actually pushing back instead of saying no. Because if you just say no to me, then I'm gonna go defensive or offensive, right?
Yeah, you will do this, yes, because I told you to do it. And often saying, if you get the feeling that yeah, this thing that's being asked of me, although I'm saying no, I know actually I have to do it, so I will get it done. It's then saying, can we agree on what else won't get done?
It's classic descoping, and I've done this like many, many, many times. Like when a team says we cannot descope anything, always you can descope things. There's everything you can do. I've never seen like a team cannot descope something in a sprint. And that's exactly this. Like you're not saying that we can do this. We just need to pull something into the sprint and then take something out. That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Otherwise, you
very
overpromise, underdeliver, and that's not good. And then you also talk about the fact that you must scale yourself before you can scale the organization. What does
Yeah,
that mean?
let's give you an example. Like you're a startup, CTO at a startup, and it's like 10 people in the startup. Everybody's doing everything. You're doing a lot of things, and then suddenly you want to go global. What are you gonna do? You're gonna keep doing everything? No. So you need to scale yourself, and by scale yourself, I mean put the systems in place, build a team around you, so you can focus on the things for the next horizon, not horizon now where you are now, right? And that's for me. That's when I say scale yourself is like scale everything around you, so you can free your time to do the things that can help the company scale.
So is delegation a big part of that? Because again, I found that you have 100 things which are expected of you. It doesn't mean you have to do all of them. You can pass them on to other people in your team.
Yeah. So there's always things you can delegate. Like I had especially if you're in a hyper growth company, which I've been. If a year from now I'm doing the same things I was doing before, there's something wrong. So something is not working, and it happened, right? So that was a signal that I have to accelerate. I'm sorry, I have to scale. I have to build a system. I have to delegate. I have to create some process probably in place, or cookbook as I call them.
Hmm.
The things that are doing so I can delegate them because um, I can't keep doing this because I'm not doing something else. Also, you don't help the team grow if you keep doing the things that It's all about control, though, right? There's
That's a
actually
really
a
important point.
really
Yeah.
good article. Um, it was shared to me like probably like 6-7 years ago. How to let your Legos, something about Legos, how to let your Legos go. It was somebody like I can't remember who. And it's really good. It's like people need to learn to let the Legos. It's like a child who doesn't want to let the Legos when they're growing up. I have this with my son. Like when I want to donate his toys, like he doesn't play, I have to hide them because he doesn't want to give them away. Although he's not going to play with them, right? Oh, they're not very useful though. It's exactly the same thing. Like you need to learn to let your Legos, the things that you love, go so you can scale yourself and then scale others.
Yeah. It's like my t-shirt drawer. I have too many t-shirts and I have a load of t-shirts that I know I'm never going to wear again, but I can't let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of learning to do. So, you've built this framework now, which we're now going to start to talk about. What came first? Was it the framework? Did you stop and say, "Oh, I need a framework and a process. Let me write one now, apply it," or is this you looking back and saying, "What happened? How did I get from software engineer to CTPO in 8 years?"
So there is a framework, but it wasn't always a framework. So it was experience that got me to the framework. So a lot of things in there is actually things that I went through or I'm going through, right? Because it's not a level system where you go from 0 to 5 and then you're done and then you're gonna be happy, live your life happily ever after. That doesn't work like this. Like you regress. So it's a circle of things. Like everything in life, it's not like you don't reach the ceiling and you stay there. You can go to the bottom like actually pretty fast, right?
Yeah, so it's worth mentioning that what you're talking about there is that it defines 5 levels, I guess, of operation where you identify where you are, and the aim is to move from level 1 up to level 5. But you're saying just because you get to 5 doesn't mean like done and you're a winner. You can come back to 2 or 3, or you can go back down the levels again.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that you're gonna go from a 1 to 3 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could go like in a different direction, like 1 to 3 directly, because you grow in a different way. This is based on my experience. This is what I went through. There are a few examples for it. And actually, these are actual examples. Some of them are me.
Hmm.
So it's not like and it could be 6 levels. It could be 7 levels. I had to balance between the granularity. Like I want to be granular, but I don't want to be too granular because you
Yeah.
lose the point.
But the levels are actually pretty self-explanatory. I like the idea there are 5. Maybe we can just at this point start to talk about what the levels are. Now, level 1 is what you call the grinder.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How do I know I'm a grinder?
Well, there's a self-diagnosis you can do to find out if you're a grinder. It's when it's probably at the bottom of it's basically where you're close to burned out or you're already burned out. It's when you're you have no systems around you, and basically you're very reactive. And that's my interpretation, by the way. Well, this is my framework, so obviously this is my interpretation.
Yeah.
The grinder is like, and I've been a grinder for many times, and probably I will be again in the future. Is when you just reactive, like you just put fires out. You know, you don't have any plan, or you don't have time to make a plan, or you have plans but you don't have time to execute them. Or you're not strategic. You just being like super tactical. And obviously you're unhappy, like, and
Yeah.
you're always chasing like the breakthrough. I think for me this is how I felt like when I was grinder. And
Right.
that
I,
wasn't
I
an
would
easy.
I would imagine there'll be a lot of let's pick software engineers for now who may identify with that because effectively they've got a pipeline of code they've got to write. This week they'll write some, next week they'll write some more, and the following week, and they would just keep on doing that. It would if I'm that person, would I identify as a grinder?
um Not necessarily, but if you could be happy doing that, right?
Hmm.
So, are you a grinder? No. Again, this is very personal, right? Not everybody who works really hard. It's what you want to get out of working hard, y- you know. And for me, it's like, I want to get really good outcomes, and outcomes can change, right? So if, like I said, my work doesn't translate into the outcomes that I want, and it could be many, like many different outcomes. It could be life balance, like it could be, I'm becoming really unhappy at home as well. I have a family as well, so working really hard like doesn't really go well with it now. Then, I still feel as a grinder, like I'm grinding through everything. It's like the right race. Like you keep chasing something that is not gonna, it doesn't translate into something better. And I want my work to have impact, right? Um, but also, like, you could be working something that you don't really understand why, like you don't really enjoy working on it, right? You can still be a grinder.
Right.
um
And the outcomes that you mentioned were, at least from what I heard, broadly two things. One was a personal thing, which is, you mentioned I'm grinding at work, therefore I'm unhappy at home, and that's impacting my family,
mhm.
and I want to fix that. So that's a very selfish, me-driven kind of objective. Important, but it's still about me. And then the second one was I want my work to have impact. So that's much more about purpose and fulfillment, I guess. Is that the sort of balance?
So the impact is across everywhere, like it doesn't change. You need to have your work have purpose and impact and meaning, right? Obviously, but I say it's the behavior. So if you look at the framework, identify the grinder as, like, I don't want to say the worst, but again, I've been there and I've done that, so it's not like it's a very personal thing. It's somebody who's very reactive, like saying yes to everything, like a pleaser. You want to please everybody, not because you're a natural pleaser, but because you have the obligation that, to do well, and you're stuck in this mode, right? And you can do the thing is, you can do differently, but you don't know how. That's the grinder
Yeah.
that I have in mind.
Yeah. And I've been there as well. And it feels like because you're taking so much on and you feel a bit unfulfilled and more comes in, it's like you're in a hole and it's just like more and more and more and more. And it's very difficult to break out of that.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the second level. So level two is the optimizer. What's the difference between a grinder and an
Yeah.
optimizer? What's the sea change?
So you've cracked the ceiling just about, and then you have you go into this mode that, okay, I've found the solution, and the solution is I will optimize everything around me. But again, you're very overwhelmed. You're constantly busy. That's the worst thing you can do. Like when I meet somebody and says like I'm very busy, for me that's the worst thing that. And I've done it again. Like probably as you asked me this morning, I said very busy week. That's bad. Like we can't be very busy, because when we're busy, we don't think, which is
Right.
bad. Um, so an optimizer is somebody who optimizes everything around them, or they try to optimize this, that they look at how can optimize, because they think that's what they're going to give them the leverage. Actually, is not, like, because they're not optimizing the right things, right?
Can you give me an example? What do you mean by optimize? What would I optimize?
Your workload, like, things around you, like how you do, but you still don't delivering the outcomes because you're optimizing the wrong things. You focus again on the wrong things, not necessarily what um, what's important, right? What moves the needle? What creates more leverage for you?
So that
Um,
could be as simple as the to-do list and prioritization that we mentioned earlier. So you get some perspective on what should I really focus on?
yeah. So think of it as we're both engineers, right? So think of it like you have the software development life cycle, and you try to optimize things that are not really bottlenecks instead of actually finding what's the bottleneck and optimizing that. And that's the common thing because usually people, that's what we do as well. We go to the what we default we know better, what's easier, and we try to optimize this. But the leverage there is small. Only going to give you like probably 5% improvement. Well, if you look at the parts of the business or the life cycle or yourself, then you can optimize. Probably you can be more. And again, awareness is key here. So optimizer is somebody who chases optimization just for the sake of optimizing. Uh, it's not a bad thing. It's actually better than being a grinder. But again, you're still overwhelmed. Like I say, you're still, burned out, always busy, and you may end up burned out. And like I said, no time to think again.
Right. Right. So number two is clearly not the destination. So then you've got the focused operator, which is level 3. Again, what's the step change from the optimizer up to the focused operator?
It's really weird now that you say the names, like the naming, like the focus operator optimizer. I think some like characters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so this is when you start the focus operator is when you start realize actually what um how to do things differently, right? Like you start challenging like what matters. And it comes with friction. Again, you're in the middle. That's why it's in the middle here. You're not being very strategic. Again, you're very in execution mode. Um, but you have more systems in place. You have more, tiny systems, small systems, and a little bit more intent as well. So you have a bit more focus, intent. You can get more things done, better things done. Um, but you're still not, you're still in friction with yourself. Like you're still not, you may end up again burned out
Yeah.
eventually. But I think most people
And
really end up like somewhere there. Like this is for me. This is the average. Like we fluctuate, and then we go through that. I
yeah.
think.
And I don't want to overdo the to-do list thing, but I do find it's quite foundational to a lot of what you're talking about, which is, if you're a grinder, you have no real sense of what you've got on and you just do the next thing. You just like keep going. If you are the optimizer, maybe at least you've written it down and you understand what you've got to do. And then as a focused operator, you're much more deliberate about, okay, I now know what I have to do. I'll do these things and I will tick things off. And the act of ticking things off just feels great.
Hmm. Yeah. I think I would focus on the behaviors. Like that's the difference between the different levels. It's the behaviors. Like how do you behave? That's how you can recognize basically um, if you're at that level. Yeah.
Yeah. What would the signs be? So if I'm now a focused operator, what would I feel different? What would be different for me?
Um, so it's a 50-50, I'd say, right? So you will be like, I'm probably that level now, by the way, right? So, I've probably regressed that level now because of some circumstances, right? So you stuck between strategy and execution and you continuously, but you want to be a bit more strategic, but you're still stuck into the other mode, which is not bad. Sometimes you need to be an executor as well. You need to execute. Um, but do you have time to think again? I don't know. But you're more outcome driven. Like you think about the outcomes by value, like I said, but you think about your time, but you still, you know, digging into hardcore execution, which takes a lot of your time as well. I think it's in the between. It's not like, by the way, there's no good or bad. It's just behaviors, right? So it's not like,
Yeah. Yeah, but there's clearly you're right. There's no good or bad. It's just a state of where you are. But it's quite clear that you are more effective the higher up you go. And level 4 is the system builder. What's a system builder?
System builder is somebody who understands like the systems are the way to scale. You've probably, you probably came across like system thinking, like,
Yep.
systems are important. We cannot scale a business. Actually, one of the books, actually, the E-Myth actually is talking about it. You need systems to scale your business. Same way you need systems to scale yourself, but also others. Um, and the systems builder is actually what it says. Like you start building systems around you, you coach others, repeatable systems, right? And you start delegating through the systems, and that then you have other things to worry, like you being a bit disconnected, right? A lot of CTOs or a lot of engineering managers actually even they go through that phase where they have to step out, they have to delegate, they build systems for the teams, but then they become too hands off, and then that's the other thing to worry. But it's a good place to be because at least you are, you you're working like you working in you're walking towards a better place, I think.
And can you
And
give me an example of a system that I might build for myself?
um, I can give you a system that I'm actually building now, so I don't have to do this in the future. It's like a hiring system. Like I'm in a new client now in a company, and we need to hire a lot of people. We don't have the hiring capacity internally, so I have to do a lot of heavy lifting myself. Obviously, I don't want to do that. Like if I stay with the client forever, I want to build the system, the machine under it that actually will do that without me and delegate like a lot of parts of it to others as well. So that's a good example of a system. So
Got it. And I'm reflecting on a guest that we had on a while ago who he comes in, sorts out broken projects, and his clear message is, I'm not the fix. It's not me. I must be able to walk away, and the
yes,
systems I put in place mean it can carry on without me.
yes. Which starts as the impact leader, by the way,
Yeah.
because
So that's your fifth level, is the impact leader.
that's the holy grail, let's say.
Okay.
Like that's where um, actually this inspire. I was inspired on this by there's a woman. I'm keep trying to find her name. Even this morning, I couldn't find her name, and I've lost the video now. There was a woman, Asian CEO, big company, from a big company. It was from a big company, and she was saying that I'm successful if when I leave the company, nobody realized that I left. Everything is working fine, and I think this is success. And to me, that's the impact leader. Like you enable others in a way that even when you go away, nobody notices that you're away. And that's a success. But that's a holy grail because there's also that's conflicting with ego as well. But for me, I really like being useless at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny, you do hear a lot of people, leaders particularly, who say, my job is to make myself redundant. And it's a nice idea, but sometimes it just comes across, as you just said, as ego. It's like they're almost building up their own importance to show how important they are
I mean,
rather than really meaning it.
the truth is that you'll never be redundant because it's just the value that you do is going to be different, right? Um, but it's not the point. Is not what you do at that point. Is what the other work that the others do. I think
Yeah.
that's a message. It's not. Yes, it's ego as well. But if you're really a servant leader and you find joy by creating leaders and creating like managers, like growing managers, then I think that's the impact leader is like the ultimate level you're gonna go because that's it's full 100% satisfaction. Like
Yeah.
you get joy by others delivering. You don't need to take credits. You don't. There's no absolutely no because ultimately everything goes back to you anyway, back up to
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
You didn't. The teams didn't build themselves. Like we don't need to explain that though.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have an expression which is, I am responsible for everything my team does and doesn't do.
yeah,
And actually, when something goes well, it's their win. But as a leader, you need to sometimes stand up and say, "Yeah, I take that," even if it's not you that actually messed up.
And for me now, looking at my notes now as well, the impact leader is the difference between what's the difference between a system builder and an impact leader, right? Because both build systems and others, they coach others. I think for me, the impact leader is actually somebody who embeds, like what they've done is embedded into the fabric of the organization. So even if when they go, that's part of the DNA now. So that
Yeah.
it will probably change, but it will be hard, really hard to change. You will need probably another impact leader to change that. And
Yeah.
it could be bad as well, right? It's not necessarily good. Could be a bad impact leader because, but we only focus on the good ones now.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the impact leader for me. Something who their impact is actually so foundational that it goes into the fabric.
Yeah. It sounds to me that um, the impact leader is more of an enabler. They
It,
enable people to run the good systems they've put in place.
yes, I would say enabler. You can be an enabler in many, in all the levels. Like besides probably the grinder, or you can even be there. But but yes, ultimately that's the big enabler. Like that's
Yeah.
the let's use the enabler with huge leverage. Like she can enable things like exponentially.
Yeah. Now, we've been through the 5 levels from grinder all the way up to impact leader. And you've said also yourself that it's not sort of a set of steps. You go from level 1 to level 2 and you're there, you're done. Now level 3, you go up and you come back down and you go up and you go back down. You're constantly moving. And you've said yourself that you're currently at level 3, for example.
Yeah, probably.
So talk a bit more about that. Why is it important to understand that this is not one and done and you're up at level 5 and now you've made it, but actually it's a constant cycle?
Because it's behaviors and behaviors change. You don't have a constant behavior across like your whole life. You change, right? And depending on the circumstances, sometimes you're in a place where you have to be like the focus operator because there's nobody else, you can do. So you need to basically start from scratch. So you don't have any other way. So you have to be that. But you can easily climb to the higher up if you pay attention to the signals around you. So, it's not, sometimes it's intentional, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it is unintentional because, you're regressing uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So
recently.
regression is an important part of this. And I guess what I'm hearing is that you've got to be constantly aware of you and how you're operating and what's happening around you and just recognize the level you're at
I mean,
because only then you can make some change.
think of as an athlete, and I'm by no means I think I'm a pro athlete, but think of it as an athlete. Like, you don't keep up if you don't exercise or if you don't train, right? You need to constantly train. As long as you are a pro athlete, you need to put the effort and train. And I think this is the same thing. Like you need to be aware all the time of the signals around you, the environment, your team around
Yeah.
you, the dynamics, the politics as well, very important. So you have to have
Yeah.
like a high level of awareness.
Yeah.
If you
And
do,
to help
you
to
go.
help with that, to help with that, you've put in a self-assessment tool, which takes matter of minutes to go through and it will give you the big signposts, the big signals that say, right now, you're a grinder.
Yeah. So again, that's from me. This is a list actually I've used in the past. This is a list that I have in. So there's no science behind it. It's a list I use and help me. So use it at your own peril. I mean, it can't do any harm. But it's basically a few things that if you do them, you probably end up like maybe with some accuracy plus and minus, you can end up with at a different level, at a
Yeah.
certain level, and then you can think of okay, this is my state now. How do I change? How
Yeah.
do I do things in a different way again? I'm trying to avoid saying things better or worse. So I'm focusing on the things differently because if you're a grinder, is it grinder or grinder? I'm not like grinder. I'm not.
Grinder, I think. Grinder. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're a grinder, like I don't want people to think like if I end up there, like oh, I'm actually doomed. No, nothing is doomed. It actually is awareness. Like at least now you know that you need to change. So do that. Focus on that, and you can do that many ways. By the way, not my list. But the
Yeah.
diagnosis is just a self-assessment, a small self-assessment you can do. Probably people can figure out other things as well they can put in the list. So I wouldn't say that's a definite list and only this. Again, no science behind it. This is a personal thing that I've built for myself.
And if we come right back to the beginning, we talked about hard work alone not being enough to sort of, to get you promoted and all the rewards that people generally want, which is probably the aim. The lower down you are, if you're a grinder, you're limiting your ability and your potential to receive those rewards that you're looking for. So if you do recognize yourself as, for example, a grinder, it's in your interest to say, okay, how do I get from there to a number two?
You know, I'm, I don't want this to be tied to a promotion level, right? Like, because it's not, I don't want people to think like if I do these things, I'm going to get promoted at work, because promotion at work happens for many reasons. And we both know that, sometimes it's not, um, fairness is not exactly um, how things are evaluated in a fair way, right? Or there's politics as well. There's a lot of reasons. So I don't wanna talk about promotions, but I would probably talk about like um, happiness.
Hmm.
If you're happy and you focus on the right things and you focus with intent, I think you'll be very successful even if you don't get promoted, right? And the paradox is like, sometimes if you're not promoted, you're more successful, because sometimes when you do get promoted, you become very unsuccessful because that's not really what you wanted. So again, it's very personal for me. I try to focus on who I want to be in the next 5 years, and I focus with intent, and that's what I do. And I try not to deal with promotions and other stuff. Of course I want to get promoted, of course I'm going to get more money, right? Don't get me wrong, but this is not my intent. My intent is actually to be happy and be impactful. And I'm hoping that I'll be in a place where they value that, or I'll work with people that they value that, and that's how I'm gonna get rewarded. So reward is not like coming from. Have you read Drive, the book, right? So money is like a extrinsic motivator. It's like, doesn't matter how much money you give to someone, there's always gonna need more, right? So
Yeah.
it's intrinsic motivation, and for me, the intrinsic motivator is impact. Like I wanna be at a place where I have impact.
Yeah. We did a whole episode on that very thing about career growth through impact and how intrinsic growth is better than I can't say the word, extrinsic growth, where promotions and pay rises are nice, but the feeling of achievement and mission and purpose is much, much more rewarding.
And sometimes, there's many examples of people with getting paid like half the money of somebody else, and they're actually happy, pretty happy and content, because this is not they get the fulfillment elsewhere. So it's
Yeah.
not, there's a lot of research on that. I'm assuming, so I'm not going to go to
Yeah.
that.
So the framework that you've left behind is in four parts. We don't need to go through the four parts now, but it's essentially what drove you to put it together. It's about self-assessment. It's about understanding the different levels, and then the things that you need to do to move from one level to the next. If somebody downloaded this today, what's the first thing they should do? How should they get into this, and how should they use it best?
Um, okay, so if you download it today, probably you need to read it carefully. Like, it's not too long. I think it's going to take probably like 10 minutes to read it. And then you need to take whatever you think is valuable for you out of it, or you can rebuild it, right? I don't, I didn't create the framework. I composed that framework and I reframe some ideas. So it's not unique. I don't have any copyright. So feel free to take it, use it, and do whatever you want with it. This is my experience. This is my interpretation of myself. And I think I'm actually close to the average person. I don't think I'm unique, right? I think I'm the average person. So I think a lot of people will relate to some extent with what is there, right? But I wouldn't expect everybody to relate 100%. But no, that's impossible to get. Like, me and you are completely different people, right? So even if we overlap, there's going to be some differences. So, but again, do not that's my life, my philosophy as well. This is not a dogma.
Hmm.
It may work, it may not work for others, but I think there are a few things there that probably will work because they're coming uh, from a history of people who actually follow them and will work. And
Yeah,
it's very, yeah,
and that's what I like about something like this, which is not just sort of, you haven't just sat down and thought, let me write something that's clever. It's actually come from your experience, and it is a very personal document. I get that, but equally, when I read it myself, I recognized myself at different times in my life. I've been those levels. I know, and I haven't done the analysis on myself now, but I bet that I fall into one of those categories.
yeah. And look, I mean, don't get stuck. I don't want people to get stuck on the 5 levels. Like, this is not just about the 5 levels. This is about like the behaviors. Like, you could be behaving from one level and the other as well at the same time. So, and it could be, like I said, somebody might come up with 6 levels or 3 levels. Doesn't really matter. The important thing is actually, the point of this document is actually figure out the behaviors that will take you to the next level. And it's all about the systems, and it's all about the impact for me. This is just a framework that I mapped really well to help me.
Yeah,
Um, the multipliers, basically. Find the multipliers in what you do so you can get money. If people who invest or actually gamble a little bit as well, they understand. I try to avoid using the leverage because I don't like the word leverage because it reminds me of you buy crypto and then with leverage, then you can win like 10x or you can actually lose 10x. And I don't like that. I don't like leverage. I like one-time leverage only.
hmm,
I use multipliers because I think it's a nicer word. And multiplier is actually this: like, you find the things that multiply your impact, and just figure out from the framework what are these multipliers for you. And if they are these, that's fine. If they're not, figure out your own.
got it. Yeah, but I like this. I like this connection with impact because it's useful for you, but also the people around you and your organization. So, if somebody were to download this today, what's one thing that you would like them to take away from our conversation today, or one thing you would like them to do immediately with this document?
Well, I would say like the diagnosis, like, it's very easy. It's going to take a little bit, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And it's fun thing. Like, I like doing this small diagnostics and everything. But um, don't get disheartened if you end up like a grinder, because again, awareness is key, right? The first thing you need to do to change is understand that you need to change.
Yeah, and
So,
without a grinder, you can't have an optimizer.
well, we're always going to need grinders and people around us because
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
life. Always going to need, I don't know if we're going to need, if we need them, but we're always going to have. Um, but at least you can be a grinder and you don't know. And then we can go philosophical now and say, like, is it okay? If you're ignorance is bliss, maybe. I don't know. But I like to know, and I like to, I like to chase my happiness. I don't want to be, um, I'm not settled that this is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yorgos, thank you so much indeed for today. I always thank people not just for the time they put into doing this recording, but the background work that goes into it, all of the preparation, writing up this document and leaving something behind. It's been phenomenal. Thank you so much indeed. What I've learned from this is that to a degree, I think people are slightly unaware of where they are. They maybe have a feeling that I'm not happy or I'm not satisfied, or a feeling that I'm going home and my home life is not as good as it could be because of all of the stress and stuff at work. Or in your case, looking at the way that you have progressed so quickly, there must be some logic behind them. There must be something that you are doing that's a bit different. So I have found this conversation and the document that you've left behind really illuminating from that point of view, that I can go to this document, and I get what you say about this is just your version and it may not be everybody's, and there might be more levels or less levels or whatever. But for me, that's not what this is about. It's the self-identification about where I am, identifying the things that I'm doing and the things that are going on around me that are feeding into my good or bad feeling. And then I've got the ability to do something about that and say, okay, well, I'd like to make a change. What is it I need to do to change? So I think this is quite transformational. I think that, you know, I know you say don't connect it with promotion and pay rise. I get that completely, but that's sort of what a lot of people want. And I cannot believe that this would not help them get there. So I
Actually,
really want to thank you.
no, thank you, Jeremy, for having me. And I'm going to close with this. If you really do the good work, like I said, um, good things will happen to you. If that's a promotion, that's a promotion eventually. I believe I don't believe in luck. I do believe in karma a bit. So keep doing the good things. Keep focusing on on what you are and where you want to be, and eventually you may get there. Right?
Yeah, I get that. And but I think also I'm hearing, as we started at the beginning, hard work alone is not enough. And it's not luck, it's other things. And taking some deliberate self-action can be transformational, I believe. So it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as always, if you're watching or listening and you want to get your hands on this, you go to buildyouredge.org/downloads, and there's a list there of all of the downloads that our guests have left behind. You'll also find the link to the details of this episode. It will have all of Yorgos's contact details, and you can find out how to reach out to him if that's what you want to do. But otherwise, Yorgos, thank you so much indeed again for the time that we've spent together. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. It was a pleasure.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.